Well, let's just sing the
All right.
theme.
Hello, we are here.
Wait. Yeah, we can do that, but
Let's do
also
the theme song.
Right. So,
yeah, we can always do the da-da-da-da, but also here's a song for the hardworking people.
oh, that's a good one.
Sing a song for the salt of the earth.
Yeah, I love that song.
My
Well, hold
favorite
up.
Rolling Stone song. So with that,
Chuck, we're here live on the Beverly Hills 90210 show. We have no intro, but our intro usually ends with you singing something. Do you want to sing that?
well, I just did that one, but if you want another one, there's
The classic, what usually
now. That's not bad for a
There you go.
for a 71-year-old dude. Okay.
33 years ago, I'm going to say hi to everybody that's here. Beverly Hills 90210 is born, and we all love this show. It's all means so much to all of the super fans of the show. I mean, look, I don't know if you guys saw, but everybody was in Tampa recently taking photos as if they were a member of the gang. So cool to see all that. Chuck, start on you always. What is your thoughts on the 33rd year of 90210?
Who'd have thought? Well, it's also the 108th birthday of my father. And I remember this night because we had to leave his birthday dinner, which was a good family tradition we had, to go to Darren's house to watch the show. He was living in West Hollywood at the time, to watch the show live with the cast. That was fun. And we did that then the next year with Darren and for season 2 as well. That was quite a different feeling going to this one, but I also was thinking before, Pete, and it just, and love you hear what you have to say, Melanie has to say, and Larry. This is also the 3rd anniversary of our major 90210 podcast, the one that really put this one on the map. So
the super
love to
show.
hear you guys talk about it. You were so involved with the production of it.
It was really amazing to put together, and for me, hosting it and meeting all of the people that I grew up watching because of this. It's not something I expected to happen, and it was a dream come true, and it's super amazing. I still think about it all these years later, and even a few months later, meeting Kathleen, my TV crush on this show. This show has done so much for so many people. It's really amazing. We would not have been able to come up with the Super Show without Larry creating the title Super Show. What was it like for you, Larry?
Oh, what the Super Show was spectacular. It was just, I was like 3.5 hours. We had more stars than Under Heaven. It was just one thing after another. We had like reunions of people I'd never seen because we had taken what Darren Martin had started, this the fandom through the dark ages of where the show is forgotten, and all of a sudden we felt like we were relevant, and all of a sudden we just blasted. It was the 30th reunion, which is a nice round number. By the way, 33rd anniversary is the Amethyst anniversary, in case you were wondering on giving gifts.
Right.
Amethyst. Were you on that show? Were you on that anniversary show?
Drew? You talking to Drew?
I'm talking to Drew Kinney.
Drew, did you do the Super Show?
I was there for a little bit.
Yeah, he was there.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the list of that, it was a legendary show, and it gave birth really to the OMG podcast and the whole resurgence of 90s nostalgia and the con in Tampa, which was obviously a huge event. And if it would have been in a city that we liked more, we would have been there too. That our wives liked more, we would have been there.
I want to get the crew in here because this is what this is about this week, is celebrating the crew of 90210. I just want to thank Melanie for being here. Melanie, you were so helpful in the Super Show. We would never have been able to do that Super Show, Planet Show, and since you've been gone, we're now doing Zoom meetings to make up for the fact that we don't have you.
You gave us a great level of professionalism.
Yes. But Chuck, I wanted you to get things started because we had the chance to talk to someone.
We did, and maybe we'll introduce the crew coming in. Pete, we did a kind of when we used to do the Patreon, we used to do sometimes kind of an off book interview. And I certainly wanted, knowing this was the anniversary, I wanted to talk to Sandy Grushow from the Fox Broadcasting Company. And we talked a little bit about the marketing of the show and what his memories, some of his memories. And we asked him to he knew we were talking about and having a lot of crew people and people we worked with, and he wanted to reach out to them. So this is what he told Pete and I earlier this afternoon.
Okay.
But this is really a moment where I'd like to express my gratitude 33 years later, and hopefully I did it somewhere along the way, to the crew, right? Because it takes a lot of work and a lot of talented people to stand one of these episodes up. The people on the front lines tend to get the credit, obviously the stars of the show, the showrunner, the network, president, whatever. But the real heavy lifting is done by a group of people who tend not to, get credit, but without whom, 22 episodes would not have been possible, much less 32 episodes. So thank you.
Okay. That was that. Let's bring on some of the crew. Okay, we have Michael Lang. I'm letting everybody in.
Party.
Drop
It
it.
is turning into a party.
Whoa, that's good. Craig.
I don't see everybody.
Matthew.
Wow, this is quite a
Rick.
roster.
Wow,
Yes, it
wow,
is.
wow, this is fabulous.
All right.
Yeah, we're enjoying this.
Oh, wow.
Line up,
Great faces.
Right on. Yeah.
folks.
Nice.
Where is okay? Let me see. Hello, everybody. Hello, Michael Lang.
All right. Hello.
Bethany and Craig.
Bethany and Diana.
Amy, Matthew. Hello, Kentucky's in the house.
Hello.
Oh,
Matthew.
Matthew.
All
Love
right.
to see you.
Hello.
Lexington.
Diane Kennedy, Diane Young.
Rick Kelly.
From
Rick.
Hawaii. Aloha, Rick.
Hello. I don't have that. I have to. Must be more
Aloha.
that I'm getting.
All right. It
Yeah.
is really awesome to see everybody here and to celebrate this 33rd anniversary with you all. This is going to be a little bit of a free for all. So we're going to just allow people to say hi and talk and all of this. Let's say hi to Bethany Rooney first. Hello, Bethany Rooney. How are you? How is everything
I'm
going?
great.
Where are you now? Where are you?
In Los Angeles.
God.
Because I haven't worked for the last 5 months, so I'm home, just like everybody else.
Yes, I hear you.
Let's say hi to our other director friend, Michael Lang. Where are you located today? Michael is muted.
Unmute yourself, or you
Yep.
can do it.
I did it for him.
Still
Still muted.
Thank you.
There
How's
you go.
that?
Much better.
I am in silent Encino, California. Turns out I wasn't unmuted. It was just Encino. It's the vibe of Encino. Very cool and quiet.
Let's say hi to our buddy Drew Kinney, who's been here from the start. Hey, and helped get so many people together. How are
Howdy.
you? Where are you
I'm
today?
lovely.
You look like you're in the most different location.
I am. I'm at the Common Market. My buddy and I are here selling some Japanese vinyl and just hanging out, having a few beers.
Just pushing Japanese
cool.
vinyl. That's good.
Matthew Lawrence, how are you?
Hello.
Where are you?
I am in my kitchen in Lexington, Kentucky, of all places.
What cap are you wearing? It's backwards. What's on the other side?
Nothing. It's just a
Oh,
go.
that's a cool. Oh, yeah, Peaky Blinders. Yeah, okay.
I'm a
yeah.
cool
Nice.
guy.
Oh man, okay.
You know.
Also, our good friend who we haven't seen in a while, Diane Young. How are you? It is so good to see you.
Nice to see you. I am well. Thank you so much.
And where are you? Where are you today?
I am at home in Moses Lake, Washington.
Very
Wow.
well.
No wine behind me.
That's right. We were the wine before. That's
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
Just books, yes.
So if it's Moses Lake, are you able to go and say, let the waters part and you could just walk through, or?
I can do that from where I am sitting right now.
Amazing.
How
That way
I'm
no
glad,
one,
Michael,
no one
I'm
can
glad you
chase you.
I'm glad you were able to articulate what I was thinking.
That's my job, Rick.
Beautiful.
Very good.
Also, of course, our friend Diane Kennedy. It is so good to see you. Where are you in? Where are you located right now, Diane?
I'm in New Orleans right now.
Wow. Nice.
Very awesome. Of course, Jill Henkel, who gave me those amazing props from 90210, which I'm so incredibly grateful for. Thank you very much. I think that's a prop in your background, is it?
That's set decorating stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Jill Henkel, where are you located right now?
Mar Vista, Los Angeles.
Amazing. Diana Valentine. A lot of people on this podcast always want more Diana Valentine episodes. So
I being one of them for sure.
Thanks, Chuck.
So plan on that. Where are you located right now?
Los Angeles, at home in Valley Village.
Nice. Craig Pittman, where are you?
I'm in my backyard in Pasadena, Los Angeles, California.
Oh, amazing. I'm in Altadena, by the way. I'm
All right.
right around your block. And Rick Kelly, of course, where are you located?
Waimanalo on Oahu.
Oh, aloha.
So is that near where Makapu is?
It's right around the corner. Actually, Diana Valentine shot an episode. I went back to Los Angeles last year, and she shot an episode at my favorite park by the beach while I was in Los Angeles. So I didn't get to visit her.
Ships passing in the night.
You know, that's been my catching waves was my obsession for years. And I made a pilot on the island of Oahu for Fox in the late 90s. And when I should have been on the set, making sure everything was fine, I was catching waves at Makapu out there. And one of those that I really can remember, not only the good ones I got, but how hard I got hammered at the same time, because that's no small feat over there.
Well, that's the
beach I love your part of the world, and great waves. Great.
Also, let's say hi to Amy. Amy, where are you joining us from? Oh, you're muted as well, Amy.
Peter, I love the sunshine on your face.
It's amazing. It never happens, but 4:30. Yeah, 4:30 in Altadena.
I'm in Los Angeles as well.
That's very awesome.
And Amy, do you still do show business kind of work, or?
I'm a set decorator now. I'm
All right, we're going to be joined by someone else who wants to say hi to everybody here too.
Whoa.
Let's see if he has luck getting in. But it's really good to have you all here. This is an amazing celebration. I mean, to Bethany Rooney, are you surprised that we're still talking about Beverly Hills 90210 33 years later?
You really had to say 33 years later? Okay.
It's the amethyst of her.
You know what? I'm not surprised, because I think of it a lot, because it was the beginning of my directing career and provided a great foundation for me. And I still love everybody who was part of it.
Amazing. And look who's here joining us is Randy Spelling.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see your faces.
Isn't this amazing? Randy, I want to say I love your new podcast, Oldish. You're doing incredible work.
Thank you.
Of course, I think of your work on 90210 as incredible work as well, but now it's you're making a difference in a different way, and it's really important stuff that you're doing, and I just wanted to shout it out right from the start.
Thank you, Pete. I appreciate that.
Your father started this all these years ago, and it's given the fan base, the super fans, so much emotion and feeling, and just a purpose in a lot of ways. What are your thoughts on 90210 on the 33rd year anniversary?
I can't believe it's been 33 years. I probably share the same sentiment with everyone. Time is a funny thing. because I'm doing the podcast with Brian Austin Green, we've had these moments where we've talked about Beverly Hills 90210 and the inception of and how it all came to be. And it's just so strange. I mean, I was 12 when the pilot was being shot, and I just remember arriving on set, having never really had interest in going to my father's other shows. So this is really the first time for me, and going to set and seeing the cast and the lighting and the writing. I got a chance to experience it for the first time, and there was an energy to it. There was a quality, something worked. And when something works, it's like seeing an actor or actress or personality, and there's just that charisma about them. There's something that they have. It oozes out of them. And I think this show was the same. Even though the first year it didn't do that well, there was something about it that just, what do the kids say these days? It just hits different. There was just something that hit different. And I think, there is a special quality. And so keeping that essence alive and reminiscing about it and talking about it is something special for the fans and for everyone involved, because it was a special thing for a full decade.
You got to work with some of the people that are here for sure. They lit you. Maybe you did a scene with Matthew Lawrence. I don't know if that ever happened, but
I don't think we ever did. Did we, Randy?
I'm not sure if we did.
I don't think we did. And now you're doing a podcast with my son.
Love that.
Tell him to call his father.
I'm going to tell him to call his father.
What's your podcast about, Randy?
It's called Oldish, and it's not so much a number. Okay, it's more about getting to this place in life where you've lived enough experiences where you start to ask these questions of, what did I learn from that? Why did I go through that? Connecting some of the dots and looking at, what's next for me? What do I want to do with my time left? All these questions that start to come with age, we'll call it wisdom. And we're tackling some deep subjects. I mean, we go into grief, co-parenting, addiction, all sorts of things that are pretty raw and vulnerable. And we have live callers call in and talk about, ways to help them and find solutions to things.
That's awesome.
It really is powerful stuff, and it's important in this time. I want to say, before we start asking the group questions, you all worked on this show, and the super fans go to Tampa, as I said, and they are still very connected to literally everything that you all did. I mean, in some small way, each of you made this show so much better than what it was, what it could be, and it connected to an entire generation of people. It's weird to me that the 90s are being celebrated so much right now, because it means that I've gotten a lot older, and I liked it when the 60s were being celebrated. That was really cool. But this show was the leader of all of that. This was the show that we all went and watched to. It's the first teenage drama, and it's the one that connected us all together. So thank you all for the work that you all did. Cheers to that.
Yes.
Yay. Let's start with Rick Kelly. You've got a lot of great stories. You lit everybody here on the show.
Together anyways,
What's that?
We were all lit together. Hey, Bethany, Wonder Years. Didn't you direct a Wonder Years before 90210, Bethany?
Yes, I did.
I thought I remembered you from the earlier show. I just thought
That's crazy that you remember that, Rick.
Well, you were fun to work with. I always loved working with you. So, it was unfortunate that we didn't get to continue with you on 90210.
Well, I was there up until Chuck left. I blame him. I was there till Chuck left at the top of season 7.
Rick, what was your experience like working in the 90210 universe?
You know what? It was one of the closest sets with everybody working together that I've ever been on, because there was a great similarity of ages between the people on the crew and the people in the cast. And I think when I went out one time, we went to someplace on Ventura Boulevard, and 2 or 3 of the actors went with us. And it's like, my God, actors go out with the crew. So it was inclusive, and it was a hell of a lot of fun.
How about for you, Diana Valentine?
Well, it's funny because 90210 was my very first series that I ever worked on. And I remember at the end of it thinking, well, I will see everybody always because we're in the same business. And there are people that I have never seen again that I think, how have I not in 33 years run into these people again? You know, it's weird. And I measured every other show I worked on, every other series I worked on by the way the family feel that this show had, you know. And I worked on a lot of good shows that had, you know, great crews and stuff, but because I think this was my first, it always held a very special place in my heart, you know.
For sure. Go ahead, Larry. Yep.
I just want to say, Diana, you were a rock on the set. Okay, from the writer's point of view, you protected every script. You
I'm
were
blown
the
away,
writer
Larry.
on set who would call back, but we depended on you
totally
so
blown
much.
away. This was your first show.
It was my
I'm
first
blown
show.
away. I never knew that. I don't know what you told Paul or what, however it worked, but you were, like Larry just described, the rock. You were at least there's one person on this Fakata set that knows what they're doing.
Well, it wasn't my first show. It was my first series. I did a lot of movies of the week for 5 years. I did movies of the week.
Okay.
And I remember going in on my interview with Paula Bertie and said, you know, he said, do you have any series experience? And I said, no, but I've been doing movies of the week for 5 years. And he said, well, we're looking for someone with series experience. So I didn't get hired initially. It wasn't until the original script supervisor got fired at Christmas that Paul called me. I got called back and said, hey, are you interested in doing the show still? And I was like, yeah.
You know how it is when every crew starts out, and on a new show, there's always going to be 1 or 2 people that just don't fit. Your predecessor did not fit. So that you came in with such a breath of fresh air. I'm the only one that goes back that far. Boy, it was, you know, you were so good at your job. Was it any more? So you had this very interesting cast that you worked with that always wanted to change the lines, and you had to go to these now mega stars and tell them, no, you got to do it this way. You know, is that kind of, was it harder on this show than others? I mean,
no, because you know what? Because I had been on the show from the beginning with these kids, you know, and you kind of moved up together and grew up that it was like a friend. So even though I can still remember Luke Perry, me getting into an argument with him one night about something he wanted to change, and I was like, no, you can't do that because your character blah 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 blah. And he turned to me and he said, Diana, what's the back of your chair say? It says script supervisor, not director. And I said, not yet.
I just want to say one thing. You also look fabulous with I remember that wide brim hat. Every time I would think of you, I would think of that wide brim hat. And thank you for all that work. It was just great.
I want to go to Matthew Lawrence too, because you have a limited time here with us. Was this experience like for you working on this show with this crew?
You know, the whole thing was pretty amazing for me because I had done a lot of things leading up to my first day at the beach club there. And we've talked about this. I thought I was going in for 1 episode, and it turned into 9 years. And the reason I was there was I'm not sure if when I was on the show with you guys before, I'm gonna come clean now. I didn't really want to do the show. And I could tell you that now because you can't do anything to me.
No, but it was really clear. You made it pretty clear, Matthew, that, I used to do that. I don't want, but it didn't matter because you're a guy and we wanted you, and that's unique. And here we are, right?
But here's the thing. When I hadn't really watched a lot of the first season, and I really didn't, I was told it was one episode. And then I asked whose father I would be playing. And when they said Brian, I had done Circus of the Stars with Brian when he was 13, I think. And we spent weeks together rehearsing. And I loved that kid. And it was like, as soon as they said it was Brian, and I remember going in the first day of when I started working, and I think he was 18 at the time, and I walked in the makeup trailer and we hugged each other and everything. And I said, "How are you doing?" And he said, "I'm doing great. I just closed on my house," or something like that. And he was 18. And I went, "Wow, what? You did what?" It was great. And from then on, every time I went there, because those of us that were the parents, Carol and all of us old people, it was a very different experience than all these kids around us were having. And I loved every minute of it. I loved being there. I loved seeing how everybody worked, the crew. And by the way, when you were talking about actors go out with the crew, there are a lot of us actors that would rather be with the crew than with any of the actors we were working with. And I can tell you that as truth, because I always went out with the crew. They were the most fun. Like, whenever I was on location, I'd go out with the crew somewhere. But I'm sorry, I'm rambling on, but it was the whole thing, and continues to be an amazing experience of people telling you what the show meant to them and still means to them. And I'm watching it with my kids now and all of those things. And kids today can't believe that these kind of shows that we were doing were a big deal back then. I mean, as you were talking about, we were the first show to do any of this stuff. Now, with everything available to all these kids, it's like, really? They were drinking? Oh, okay, big deal.
Well, and also doing 32 episodes a season at some point too is an incredible amount of work. Jill, what was that? For
most of the crew people, I mean, Drew, you were on all 32, right? But for most of the crew people, like Diana, and you were doing one crew, and Rick, you'd be in a crew, but you'd be doing different. And we did the double ups after we didn't do them in season 3. It was only seasons 4 and 5. So I don't think you'd have two double ups, Diane.
6 and 7.
Kennedy. And that was good because they were really tough. But we would double the size of everybody, but not everybody was times 32. Were you times 32, Jill? Were you on all 32 shows?
Yes, I had a buyer to help me.
Great. Yeah, but that was the good
Wow.
It really was. I always just, it was greed. Wow, we could do 32 times. Nobody gets to do that. Never, before or after.
32 the first season, or the third season. Did we do 32 before we started doing the double ups?
We did up to 28.
28.
28 and then the 29th hour. The third season. Craig, when did you come on the show? First season?
I came on at the very beginning and dressed the permanent sets at the start. So me and Amy started then, and I went all the way through and finished up with Jill. So I can tell you 32 episodes. I was also one of the singular people on the double ups, which was excellent training for the future to handle a big workload.
Bethany, Bethany has your hand.
Workload get just overwhelmed, Diane Young? Were you just or double ups, or they just was a show and there were actors by this point who wanted to be on it, and we knew what we were doing, et cetera, et cetera?
We had to be incredibly organized because I had nobody else. It was Kelly and myself. And we had to read the scripts, separate the actors, make sure that the actors could come in at the right time. And it was really busy. It was busy and sometimes very overwhelming, but we got it done. And once we got into the gist of everything, and it worked out because we knew we had this much time and this much time, and everybody came together that I needed to have come together, and it worked out. And we made it, Kelly helped make it ready for the first time, and then I'd come in between shows, or I'm sorry, in between reading sessions, and she'd hand me what I needed for the second group of readings, and we'd just go. Yeah. And just go. It was a lot of hours, but it was great fun.
Yeah. Bethany has her hand raised. What, you have a thought on this?
I do, because actually this is how 90210 comes up in my conversations these days, because that was obviously the first time I did double ups, and now every show I do does double ups on day one, and on the final day, I'm sure Michael and Diana would concur with this. All the shows do, but 90210 was the first one to. I felt like that it was inventing this concept and making it work, and so for me to confront it now or in the last 10 years or whatever, it was no big deal because 90210 did it a long time ago.
and did entire episodes, not just the first day and the last day, you know?
Yeah, true.
On other what shows can I ask? Who? I mean, not the 1 and 8, but the one that you said, the whole double up. What other shows double up?
Was one of them.
No, I'm saying 90210 was the only one that did entire episodes of a double up.
Oh yeah, but oftentimes, especially I think in season 5, when we get
just want to say goodbye to Randy.
Randy
has to go. I want to say goodbye to you, man. Thank you so much for your time here. Appreciate you, man.
So good to see everyone. I hope everyone is doing well, and thank you for being a part of this in all the ways that you were. Thank you for asking me here, Pete. Bye, everybody.
Much love, Randy.
Bye, Randy.
Bye, Randy. Good to see you.
You too.
I want to go. Chuck, do you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, I just want to finish the one thought that when we would get these shows done in quicker than 7 days because we had so many interior sets. We just knew that you guys' crew was working so fast. We knew how to do this, that we'd often do it at 6.5, and the next director would step in because Gabrielle would always be ready. She was always ready to go. Whatever was next, she would be there.
Jill had your hand up.
I think 90210 was one of the most well-run shows I've been on. I mean, we knew how many days a week we'd be out. We usually had scripts and pages when we needed them. And as my work proceeded in the following years, it got to the point where you're doing shows without scripts half the time. And your schedule is changing a lot. So I think the times changed, but it was a really well-run show, which made it much easier to do double ups.
Amy, you have your hand up.
Hi. Yeah, I was going to say something along those lines, but also add that when we started this show, we didn't have cell phones. I think the only people that had cell phones were the producers and the computers. Oh yeah, and it might have been Craig. Craig might have had one that was like, this big.
I got one of those. I remember the incident, which made me get it, but it was several years with no cell phone.
Right.
What was the incident? Is it an interesting incident?
Sort of. We were supposed to have a payphone at a location out in Pasadena. And for some reason, it had not made it on the truck. So I put it in my personal truck and was taking it there from Van Nuys. And of course, the traffic was awful. And I had a pager, which we all had, infernal device. And my pager kept going off every 30 seconds. Luckily, I was young at the time, because at this age, I would have a literal heart attack from the stress caused by that. But anyway, I arrived at the location and nobody's there. So I found an actual working payphone and called, and they said, oh, we're not shooting that. And I'm like, I'm getting a cell phone, because I just about literally died.
Well, Craig used to also have us call in at what he called Dr. Pepper hours. So for those of you who are not from Texas like we are, that's 10, 2, and 4. So if there was something that had come up, your emergencies could only happen when it was Dr. Pepper hours. That's how we solved all of your problems.
Yeah, and the prop houses used to have a little desk with landline telephones. So that's how we stayed in touch, was the old-timey way.
That good old 20th century way. Yeah.
But honestly, if the scripts were not written and the character development wasn't as tight, even when we had to pivot, the pivot wasn't horrible, because you guys protected us in a way that was reasonable. I know there were times that Craig and I came to you and said, I'm not sure we can pull this off. And it was never nobody ever threw anything on the ground and, stomped off. There was a lot of respect, and I appreciate that.
Michael Lang, you have your hand raised.
I do. I was thinking, I didn't realize that there was a little thing you could do. I was going to go like this.
Yes, there is on the reactions. If anyone wants to add a thought on the reactions, you can hit and raise your hand. But anyway, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, so everything everyone is saying is completely dead on. And I think one of the big reasons was that the show knew exactly what it was, and it knew exactly what it did really well, and aimed to do that thing really well every single time, and did it. And I think that's why it was such a smooth running show. And everyone was on board with that idea. Also, no one ever wanted to have to go see Mr. Spelling. So there was that little fear element. So to me, the best example of this is, and how it was so weird, kind of transitioning from 90210 to almost every other show I've ever done. So, the first thing is, whenever I would go to a show and the producer would say, we kind of think of us like we're one big happy family here. That was like the scariest thing anyone could ever say. Because as we all know, families are, they love each other enough to be their worst possible selves. 90210, that's how it was. So that was beautiful. The other thing is, no one ever said on 90210, we kind of think like we're doing a little feature every week, which of course most shows think.
That's exactly right. That's right.
So that also is good. That's part of the show knew what it was.
That's right.
But so here's a great example of the trend, the mindset that I had on every other show I've ever done. So we did, it was one of the 2-hour season finales that I directed, and we were shooting for 6 days on the Queen Mary. It was, by the way, one of the most fun episodes I've ever done. Then, I can't even imagine. So I figured it was a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I thought, and it was big. So there was one day which we shot in the Grand Ballroom, and here was the day: 250 extras, 7.5 pages, the entire cast, and 3 songs by the Goo Goo Dolls. Right?
Thank you, Larry Mullen. Thank you, Larry Mullen. Right?
He wrote that?
Yeah.
So I thought, well, and I lived, we shot it in Long Beach, and I was living up in the Hollywood Hills. So I thought, well, even though 90210, pretty much 10 to 12 hours was the max, I'm thinking this is going to be a 14-hour day. And between my travel back and forth, it's going to be a nightmare. So I actually booked a room on the Queen Mary, which was amazing, by the way. So so we get there. I think that was day 2. Day 1 was something where we shot and some of the actors were doing bungee jumping, which did not make anyone very happy. But so the second day, so we're going to this gigantic day. I wake up, get to the set, and we had a steady cam, and I ended up doing a 360-degree shot in the ballroom with, like I said, with all the cast. I timed, it was sort of this intricately timed shot, which got all the dialogue. Of course, then I covered it, but because otherwise Chuck would have called the next day.
Chuck was gone. I was there. Chuck was gone.
Oh, so then you would have called the next day.
This is all news to Chuck.
News to Chuck. So
we do have the dailies of it, though. We do have the dailies of it, and we've watched it. Yes, Rick, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Cool.
Yes.
Anyway, so I get there. I'm all ready for this, very long day. To make this long story a little less long, we ended up finishing in 10 hours. I don't know how we did that. Well, Rick Gunther, who was the DP, he said, well, you want to do a 360, so I don't really have very many places to put the lights. That's why I can't use a lot of lights. So I went, okay, note to self. No other DP ever said that to me before or since. But, and it was the most amazing day. The footage was great. Everyone was on their game, the Goo Goo Dolls were great. Everything was great. So at the end of the 10 hours, we all went up to the poop deck or whatever bar. We sat there and drank until who knows when and had a great time. But that kind of it's a good sort of example of how the show was run because everyone knew what they were supposed to do. Paul Wagner was amazing and everyone loved him. And it's a great example of how so many shows operate based on fear, and on this show it really operate out of respect and love for everyone, and it was amazing. So that's it.
I just want to say goodbye to Matthew Lawrence as well. It was really good seeing you. Much love for all the incredible work that you've done as well.
Matthew.
Go ahead, Larry. Yep.
Okay, Michael. There's a little bit of a controversy I got into, but I remember a day. I think you did the end of episode the season ender of episode of season 5, right? The season 4.
Oh,
Mr.
yes.
Walsh Goes to Washington.
Yep.
Now there was a Dylan McKay Brenda Walsh kiss in that episode. Do you remember it?
Yes.
I remember, and I saved these dailies. They're somewhere in my storage, but I remember that so I want you to think of that moment when they're kissing. You yelled cut, but the kiss did not stop.
I think I do remember that.
Thank you. I feel vindicated. Someone had called me a lie that because I couldn't produce. I have to produce a video, but that's how. In other words, they did have wonderful chemistry.
Yes.
Shannon and
Yes.
Liz, even though they kind of didn't like each other physically, they enjoyed the hatred or whatever. They had heat together. There's no doubt. Can you speak to that?
Wow, there's nothing more to say. I yelled cut. They didn't stop. That kind of says it all.
What about Bethany? Did you have that experience also when the kissing happened? Did any of the actors continue after the cut?
No, sorry, no gossip here.
Okay, no gossip there. All right, well, thank you for clearing that up.
Well, what about the cast, though? You all had interactions on different levels with all of them. And, we've all heard really awesome stories about how great they are and whatnot. What was that young cast to work with, like back in those days? I'm curious for Jill, or actually for even Diane Kennedy, because you had so much interaction with them in picking out everything that they wore, and I'm sure that left for a lot of room of conversation. What were they like then?
Well, I came onto the show in Christmas of '89, I think it was. Now Chuck is always correcting me on time. 90. Okay, so it was Christmas.
We were just a glint in Darren Starr's eye.
I had just had a baby, so I was, time was like. But yeah, I came on Christmas of '89 for the back 9 of the first season. And it was a very interesting arrival. I
I had a cast that was very young and didn't really understand a lot of what it all entails. They didn't really understand continuity. They didn't understand a lot of things. And so it was a little tough in the beginning. One thing was Jason wanted to wear overalls, and I didn't want anyone to wear overalls because at that time they were popular because gang members would hide guns inside. And I didn't think it was a good look for 90210. But it took a lot of talking and I did break down and give Jason a pair of boots. He wanted to wear his own boots, but the sole was coming away from the shoe and he didn't want it fixed. So after a while, I just bought him a pair of boots, put it in his room with a hammer, and wrote a note, have at it, because these are the boots you're going to wear. And so that's how we solved that.
Right.
Of course, there's always the classic red dress story, which I keep trying to get you to share. What was it like to be enthralled in the girls' drama? Because it only was you know what I mean? You were the one
Really
that was
stressful. Yeah. I remember one day I went out shopping. Everybody was in costume change, no more changes for the day. It's about 2 or 3 o'clock. I went over to the mall to shop around. And when I came back, my office had an erasable board on the outside. And the message was, I'm not going to wear this shit. So I was like, welcome home. You know, here we go. So one of the biggest issues with female cast was when Shannon and Jenny had to wear the same dress for the prom. That was like pulling teeth. That was just difficult. And as they were getting dressed, Shannon came up and said, I'm not going to wear it. I won't do it. I said, now, Shannon, you gave me your word and you told me you were going to wear this dress. She said, well, I'm not going to wear it. Now, Shannon's a little bitty girl and I'm 6 feet tall, and we got nose to nose. And I said, you are going to wear that dress, Shannon. No, I'm not. So it got to a point where we were yelling at each other, and Paul came out and physically separated us. Wow. Now, ladies, it was insane, but she ended up wearing it. And kudos to hair and makeup for helping us with the Audrey Hepburn look. Something to give her a little bit more of a definition from the dress.
One of the most iconic episodes. Thank you, Shannon, for wearing it, because it's something that we all love and remember. Chuck, is this a new story for you? Did you know this story? Were you notified?
No, but yes, possibly, but you know, it just confirms why Paul was in the valley and I was in the city. You know, we that stuff would have consumed us.
It was consumed.
And Paul would not, and you know, because Diane, particularly Diane Young, would remember, because I would come over, I would find ways to, despite the fact that I was in the city and always lived in the city, I always found ways, especially on Friday nights, to end up in Paul's office and with Betty in a bottle. And we would that was our, you know, goodbye to it. And that's when he would share the stories with me. You don't know what I protected you from, and you know, those kind of things. And it really, you know, to do the number that we were talking about it. When you see this little bit that Pete and I did with Sandy Grusho, I asked him, when you first gave us 32 episodes, did you actually think we could complete the order? Because it was really so outlandish, and it really were quite. I mean, the idea, the notion that you'd have 2 in prep, 2 in production, and 2 in post at the same time was just outrageous. And I don't know if Bethany or Michael ever had only like 2 days in directing because of it. I apologize. And at this late date, 33 years later or whatever it would be.
I want to go to Bethany real quick. Well, you raised your hand to make a point as well, but I'm curious because you did the first season and then you moved on. Did you see, we've talked about it, I think, in the past about the growth of the actors, but do you have, being a director, any sort of similar experiences that Diane sort of referenced?
Well, I will say that Shannon sent me to therapy.
Oh boy.
And actually taught me, I got one of my best lessons about going forward being a director in that, because through therapy, I came to realize if I give my power away, if I get upset about something that's happening, I'm giving my power away. If I don't get upset, if nothing bothers me, and I know it's all going to be okay, then I'm not falling into somebody else's trap. So I learned a lot. I mean, that allowed me to go forward and be strong for, forever, for the rest of my career.
Thank you, Shannon.
That's a very positive thing that I got that lesson from her.
Yes. Let me just tell you, since you're on that subject, and this is kudos to Shannon, by the way. This is not a bad thing. After we went through so much turmoil in the first season, second season, I was sitting in my office during prep, and Shannon walked in, and she sat down and said, "I've got it figured out." And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "You're not intimidated by me, are you?" And I said, "No." She said, "That's the problem."
Wow. She said what?
That's the problem.
That's the
problem. I thought it was incredibly thoughtful and insightful that she would actually, give it so much thought, but that she was totally honest and said, that is the bottom line. And we got along from that point on.
Bethany, did you have another point outside of my question that you wanted to make?
Well, I just want to say about Chuck coming to the Valley, and Diane Young, you can corroborate this. I feel like we had casting sessions at the end of the day, which gave Chuck a reason to come to the Valley. And also, I want to say I loved being in casting sessions with Chuck, because that back in the day when we could do that in person, we could really work with actors and discover them and choose them. And Chuck and I were always on the same page about that. Am I right that?
Yeah,
Diane?
no, casting was something Diane knows. I was very, I was very insecure about that casting. I spent most of my career writing television movies, and Michael Lang will appreciate this. The only producer that allowed me to sit down on casting was Len Hill when I did the Beach Boy movie for ABC, because he knew that I would do free rewrites if he let me go to casting. That was the only time I ever was in casting, on the day that Luke Perry came in to read for the first time. I had never been to a casting session. I had no idea. So I remember that Len would say to the actors, "Oh, nice adjustment." And that was about all I knew to say to an actor. I didn't know how to evaluate. and I knew that I just probably didn't have that much time to sit in casting. Like some producers, especially those who don't really want to write, try to avoid it. And so I want to see every, what's his name? Kevin Williamson in Dawson's Creek. It was a problem. I want to see every actor in Hollywood. No, you don't. Let's make our TV show. But that's a different podcast.
Yes.
But it was, the idea that, much more zippy, but also you guys, you directors, you were working with the actors. I learned that at one point, especially in the third season, I remember walking on the set, which I didn't do all that often and one of these reasons, it was an episode that Jack Bender was directing. And the moment I was on the set, certain cast members ran right to me to complain about something or want something different. And Jack told me, said, "You're on the set, you undermine the director's authority." So I always made it clear to ask who was working right now, because there were certain actors, there were other actors I wanted to greet more than others. Let me put it that way.
I saw Drew you have your hand up, or you did have it up.
Yeah, I did, because sitting here listening to everybody's recollections and getting into the whole thing about maturity and personalities, I find it kind of interesting, especially 33 years later, because so many of us were so young at the time and didn't have tons of experience at sort of dealing with a myriad of people in different avenues, jobs, fame, behind the scenes, whatever, and dealing with people's personalities, and sort of having to come to grips with learning how to negotiate how you work with other people. Because you can have a job that you hate, but when you have a job that is the most fun you've ever had in your life, and you want to go there tomorrow because you don't know what you're going to get to do, and it's just exciting all the time, you learn to deal with all those things. And that's one of the biggest things I've taken away from this in my whole life, is it's made me evaluate how I deal with everybody else in the world. And it's because of this group of people that, we were so close and so together for so many years. And it didn't really, sort of dawn on me till years later that it had that effect. And so it sort of feels like, and just listening to like everybody's conversations here and how they segue back and forth, it's like, sitting at a family reunion, and then two uncles start talking, and then, somebody's in the kitchen yelling, "The biscuits are ready," and then it starts drifting. And that's what this feels like today. And I've got to say, I'm very happy about that.
That's amazing, man. Amy, you've got your hand up.
Oh, it's a perfect piggyback for what Drew was going to say, but I also need to say, especially if Shannon is listening, she introduced me to my husband.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I got set up on a blind date at a 90210 wrap party. And I've been married for 30 years as a result of a Shannon Doherty hookup. So I have a lot to be grateful for to the 90210 cast. Most of us got in the union on that show. And so we were very young. And like I mentioned before, we didn't have cell phones. So we went to Merrick's and the Sportsman's Lodge, and, went out drinking and partying and karaokeing and playing Truth or Dare. And I thought that's how all shows would be. And it's not. Apparently actors are usually special unicorns that don't play nicely with the cast and crew. Crew usually don't mix like that. But anyway, if Shannon's listening, thank you. I have two great kids as a result.
That's amazing.
Love that.
So my question was, Pete, just how many of you got? So Craig, did you get in the union from 90210?
No, I was in the union already, but I think I was one of the very
Diana,
few
you did?
members.
Joe, you did? That's great.
I know.
That's great. And Joe, you did. Well, that's
Guy.
Oh
Karen.
my goodness.
Karen. Diana Valentine. I'm curious of the question that we were talking about with Bethany and Diane. Did you work with the actors quite a bit? Do you have any similar experiences having to correct something in the script or dealing with some of that?
Yes. But I have found that most times dealing with actors, whether on 90210 or other shows, it tends to be a negotiation. And I also feel that if you explain the reason why what they're saying is changes the meaning to something else, they're willing, they're more than happy to, but sometimes, they don't understand why this is different. And, we had a number of reoccurring actors on the show that weren't in the original cast later on in years that, had issues understanding about why, if they ad-lib something, it would change the meaning of what it was supposed to be, but some were better at taking the notes than others.
Fair enough. Rick, Kelly, you told me a story on the phone about the 60s episode and maybe having some fun with some of the cast.
Oh, the 60s episode, that was, I was mentioning to you, they were going to use me as a double for Luke, because at the time I was quite thin and had long hair, and I actually kind of looked like him. But we got shooting finished so quickly, Luke actually was his own double, so I didn't have to do it, but I think they still had to pay me. But the fun one was, we were at Occidental College, and there was a big outdoor venue of fun and free love and hippies running around at Woodstock. And I can't remember which actor it was, but the word went around that they were looking for one of the crew who had some pot with them that day. So a bunch of us congregated in one of the trailers and smoked a couple of joints, which made the rest of the Woodstock experience even better.
Authentic.
I like it.
Trying to think of the band.
That's how we were writing it, so why not?
Who was the song does anybody remember the band of the song that we used?
Wait, on that one?
Yeah.
In that scene?
Yeah.
I think Shine On Your Brother, everybody listen.
I was going to say the Youngbloods. I think it was the Youngbloods.
There on set, we all got to meet him.
Jill, did you have any interactions with the cast, and what were they like?
Most of my interactions with the cast were not on sets, would be in the offices or walking around, and they were all great. I mean, I was older than most of my crew, Amy and Craig, and so I think they showed me a certain amount of respect, but everybody had fun fooling around, laughing, talking. And when I would ask actors if there's anything specific they wanted on sets, they usually didn't say anything. So we were kind of left on our own to do what we wanted. And we get the sets ready, the crew comes in and lights it, then the actors come in for the lighting, and then the standbys come in, and then we leave. So the decorator and the swing guys don't get to spend much time with the actors on the stages, unless you're actually the on-set dresser or you're, moving things that day. But I was out shopping most of the time when they were filming, so didn't spend much time with actors.
One of the things we talked about with Sandy earlier was the need and his concept of the beach club. And when you look at the beach club and how you guys decorated that set and created that, it lit all of my generation's imaginations, because it really created a place that felt so real and a place we can go. And you did that, Jill, for virtually every set that 90210 needed. I mean,
me and Drew and Tom and Amy and Craig.
I mean your team and your crew.
But we were given great direction, from the scripts, from Chuck, from Paul, from different people about what was supposed to be going on. And then again, once it started going, it was easy to keep doing it, because the show was such it's just stayed true to itself throughout the whole time.
Chuck, I'll go to you in a second, but I want to follow up with it. Did you at all have a realization of the impact it was having on the generation when you were creating?
I just want to say that at the beach club, we were leaving one day, and I'm old enough to have been around the Beatles, and so screaming 12-year-olds were for the Beatles. We were leaving the beach club one day, and Jason and Luke and Ian were on a truck about to leave, and we were swarmed by screaming 12 and 13-year-old girls. And it felt just like the Beatles. And that was the first time I was truly aware, like, this is a phenomenon. This is something that's going to happen. And it was the boys, because it's girls, I think, that really are the ones who buy the magazines, buy all those things. And that really, got us going.
But I'm curious, like when you were designing, maybe this is even more for you, Diane Kennedy, you created cultural looks, like things that inevitably became popular in some of my generation in the 90s. Did you have a realization that that was happening?
Oh, yes. I could see it on the street. And the fashion industry in LA named me one of the top 5 most powerful designers. So I knew that 90210 had a huge impact on fashion. Yeah, you could see it everywhere.
Chuck, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just amplify the one thing that you were talking about, the set of 90210. Well, if you remember, Darren Star and I were told that we were doing summer episodes basically like 2.5 weeks before we would start prep. I mean, it was practically that quick. I mean, it was not quite, but we were coming right back. And so he had just finished directing Spring Dance, and he had to cut it. And I had a newborn who was at that point, I think he was 4 or 5 weeks old, and 2 little girls and Karen. And we hopped in a plane and ended up, and this was right after the Gulf War. So there was, Hawaii did not have that much tourism going on right at that point. And Darren was going to the same hotel because, of course, it's Darren Star, and that hotel was the Four Seasons. And so we're both at the same hotel in Maui, and it's a really comfortable hotel. And all of the beach chairs and the color schemes and everything was like, well, look at this stuff, Paul. Look at this stuff. And I believe that the chairs and a lot of the stuff came from somebody in Florida who manufactured those, all of that stuff. Because I know that we just ended up distributing it. Some of it ended up with the Rosen family for years until it fell apart. But that was part of that look. And I always, Sandy, was really the one who, I mean, he reminded us today. He said, well, you guys balked at first of doing that. And I was like, did we? I don't remember that part. What I really remember is he said, why don't you do like the Flamingo Kid? And Aaron and I, it was in season 1, we at least spent the first 12 episodes hardly agreeing on anything. And after that, we were in perfect simpatico. Wait a second, the show is working. And so he mentioned Flamingo Kid, and we looked at each other and went, yeah, we could do that. And that's really how that came about to get those summer episodes. And it's certainly the big, Sandy impressed upon us the huge risk that the almost broke Fox Broadcasting Company was taking by making us do summer episodes that summer. So.
Bethany, with the conversation about knowing that the show is iconic and whatnot, you directed some of those early episodes, like The First Time, Perfectly Perfect, these iconic things that we still watch and love. When did you realize like the sort of return on like, oh my God, this is so significant with this generation? Or did you, and was it years later? Did you know in the moment what was happening?
Well, in the first, I guess the first half of the first season, maybe up to the first 13, we were all just working away in the warehouse in Van Nuys. It hadn't started airing yet. We didn't know if it would be successful or not. And Fox was brand new. And, we had no outside, or my memory of it is we had no outside interaction at all. We were just in our own little bubble. Then when it started airing and became a big deal, I remember on Monday mornings coming in and saying to different cast members, usually, like you guys said, the boys, where'd you go this weekend? And it would be, the mall in Minnesota or the it was always an appearance. They were always flying away for the weekend, where then they would tell stories about the 10,000 girls who were screaming their names.
Well, that was the genius of Aaron Spelling, is that he knew he couldn't. It was a non-union show with non-union contract, with yes, SAG contracts, but lower scale than what actors on other series kind of were making. So how we could make it up to them was to fly them first class to get appearances and they were young enough to really want that whole Hollywood treatment and be on the road and be with their buddies and whatever else. And so he would do that. And that started by flying to the Mall America. And then it was like, I'm flying you to Rome now. I'm flying you to, Gabrielle, it took her years to recover from being in Tel Aviv. Larry and Pete and Melanie can attest that we've got fans all over the world, but there's something special about Rome and Tel Aviv in terms of our fan base then and now.
That's true. Michael, what about for you who came in later on? How did you realize that this show was so, it was already iconic at the point that you got there, but did you understand that the work was having a significant impact on the generation? Was there a point for you?
Yeah, definitely that. I think what happened was, I remember the first or second day I was prepping, probably it was my AD who said, okay, now that you're working on the show, you're going to notice that every single day you're going to hear something on the media, there was no Facebook then, something on the radio or television about the show. And I'm thinking, no, that can't be true. And sure enough, he was right. Every single day there was something about it on either the radio or TV. And I remember when I was first in the business, I was on a show that shot at Fox called The Fall Guy. And Fox, somewhere in there, Fox started up the little network, and we all were like, oh yeah, they're gonna do nothing, which of course until 90210 that was true. And then 90210, basically, as far as I understand the history of our business, that's what made Fox, wasn't it?
That's part of it. You got to go with the
Garbage
greatest show
Children.
ever made, which is The Simpsons.
Simpsons,
They
yeah.
they were the first. The great thing, and it really did help 90210, fits into this, Michael, is The Simpsons was a hit in the spring. And they couldn't believe they had this. Everybody's watching The Simpsons. Everybody's talking about Simpsons. Everybody loves The Simpsons. Who didn't love The Simpsons, by the way, was Barry Diller, but that's a separate conversation. They have The Simpsons, and they go to the upfronts finally with the show that's hot, and they guarantee that they're going to have episodes ready to come in August. And they did this without ever finding when the next episode of animation can be delivered.
Right.
Because The Simpsons couldn't be delivered to October. 90210 did not debut in August with all the other lambs they led to slaughter that they couldn't support and do. We weren't debuting to October. So I got one extra month to prep the episodes that Bethany Rooney came in, Dan Attias came in, the first Artie Mandelberg came in, and a bunch of others and it was just I remember so much in the first day of production, we were behind all day. This is before Paul, so nobody trusted anybody. It was a propaganda show. Duke was pissed off it wasn't his show. And Aaron was nervous, and we're behind, and it's the golden hour. And the director, who you guys must know, Michael Uno, who was taught over at SC for a lot of years. Michael was a terrific movie of the week director. He knew the light was going out time. He did a oneer, and we got the scene, and we made the day. And I made my first day and had the confidence to go to the second day. If we had not made day one, my goose was cooked. I knew that. So talk about work and the stakes of it. It was pretty modest. Just make the day, goddammit. Just make the day.
Craig, I know you have to leave in a little bit. Are there significant episodes or stories from set that stand out to you before you leave?
Oh golly, there's so many. A lot of my experiences are not necessarily episode related. They might be. They have more to do with just our childish antics behind the scenes. And
share a childish antic,
please.
Oh my gosh, I can just remember out dressing the beach club. We'd be wrestling in the sand, or somebody trying to put up a volleyball net and having a drill motor flip them off a ladder into the sand. Everything was just so funny because we were all about 26. And for me, it was my first actual real Hollywood show that I got to manage my department as the lead person. So I was learning as I was going along. And I don't know, there was just everything. We started off as a very non-union show. So instead of a whole slate of Teamsters like we would have, we had one truck with this legendary driver who was aptly named Brick. And we had this van that we would drive ourselves as our other vehicle, which we called the Stinky Van, because it had some sort of undetermined aroma in it. And sometimes when Drew was gone, I would go over and change the sounds that his computer made so that it would make a rude noise rather than what it was supposed to do. And we just had, it was really fun. Kind of all shows, as everyone has said, are kind of measured against that. I think it was sort of like going to college, the kind of relationships and experiences, the sort of like fun and intensity of the whole thing. And never so far in my career to be repeated.
Wow.
Nothing like it.
Michael, I know you have to leave soon as well. Do you have significant memories from different episodes or from set?
Wow. This is a 3-hour podcast, right?
Right. Yeah. Something like that.
I mean, yes, I do.
You know what I always loved in all the ones. I was going to say shooting the calendar, Michael. The calendar was great, and you had all the guys dress up, and you. I think.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
That was a nice montage. That was when. I'm going to do more with this guy. It was very good.
Right, Michael, what were you going to say?
And Bethany,
no, I was going to say I think it was I'm pretty sure it was my very first episode. So it's a Shannon story. And I had been told I was going to hear, every day something. And I'm pretty sure it was my first day. And my agent was there. He was very excited that I was, that I was doing that he got me on the show. And so I'm doing a scene with Shannon. And I had heard on my way in, I had heard on the radio that the night before she had, was at a restaurant and a paparazzi jumped in front of her car, and she actually tried to run the guy over. So, so now it's my literally first scene with her. I think I had met her. I went to introduce myself when I was prepping, but it's the first scene we're doing together. So I said, "Oh, hey, I'm really excited to be working with you." And just by way of starting, I just wanted you to know how I like to work. I kind of like a fun, relaxed atmosphere so that we can sort of play. It's like a sort of like a sandbox, and we all kind of get and make stuff, and at some point something cool happens. So I don't really like any stress on the set because there's enough stress already. So I just want you to know that if there's anything, I think I've told this story before.
I don't mind. I love hearing it. Yeah.
So I said, if there's anything I do, I heard about, what happened last night. Totally get that. Like paparazzi, very annoying. But I heard what happened last night. And I just want to let you know that if there's anything I do, that makes you want to, which car did you drive in? The big Mercedes this morning? She says, yes. I said, so if there's anything I do that makes you upset enough to want to go in the car, turn it on, rev it up, put it in gear, and then aim in my direction, and just let me know, and I'll stop. So she just looked at me like, what the fuck? I said, just to repeat, if there's anything at all, and my agent called me the next day and said, I thought I was witnessing my client self-destructing before my very eyes. Anyway, so I said, so just let me repeat, because I want it to be really clear that if there's anything at all that I do, because I have a family and I have a wife and 3 kids, or whatever, 2 kids at the time, and I like my life. If there's anything at all that I do that makes you want to get in that big Mercedes and turn it on, rev it up, put it in gear, and then try to hit me, just let me know. And she says, what you're doing now is making me want to run you over. So I said, well, then I'll stop. And then she bursts out laughing. I burst out relieved, laughing, and the entire crew burst out laughing. And from that moment on, we had such a great relationship. I mean, it was really great until the very last episode, which I directed her last episode. And we were doing a shot, and it was one of these huge close-up shots. And you know how at that point she had her hair that sort of had 2 little things that went over her eyes.
Yes.
And I knew how much, Aaron loved, he was all about the eyes. Like you can never wear sunglasses and, whatever. He said, it's always about the peepers, and he was not wrong. So so in this big close-up, it was unusually, usually the close-ups were like in here. This one was like, because it was some very, emotional moment or whatever. And so the way it was lit, there were those 2 spiky things cast some pretty bad shadows over her eye. So I said, can someone from hair come over and please move these just a little bit so I could see her eyes better? And she said, no, I'm not moving them. And I said, well, Shannon, I explained to her the shot, and it was very close, and it was very distracting having these shadows. So she said, well, you have to relight. So I said, well, we can't really relight. We have a lot of work, and it's just a matter of moving them just a tiny bit just a little bit. So she says, well, it's my close-up, and I'm not moving them. So I said, that's where you're wrong, Shannon. It's not your close-up. It's my close-up, and we are moving them. And she says, I'm leaving. So I shouted out, okay, everybody, let's go to lunch early right now because Shannon is leaving.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Wow. Big pause. And she says, okay, fine, move them.
Oh.
So we did it.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was the only sort of tense moment I had with her. And that was after, quite a while.
Bethany, did you just get PTSD? Did...
A little bit. Yes, I must say, a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, she was quite interesting, interesting. She I'm sure Bethany will agree that we had to dig a little deeper into our little bag of tricks to work with her.
You had to be a great psychologist,
Yeah.
Michael, was that the day that we shot on the beach with all the wind and Jenny and Luke had all the sand blown in their face?
No, that was a different thing.
That was different. Yeah, this was on stage in the kitchen, in the kitchen.
But on that day that Rick's talking about, the wind's blowing, the grips have got flags up trying to keep their hair and sand blowing on their clothes. And they finally got the scene, and then Shannon was supposed to do a scene out on the rocks on the ocean, and she walked out of her trailer and the wind was blowing. She walked out there and she literally came back, got in her car and left. And some PA, I don't remember who it was, that was literally on the hood of her car trying to stop her from.
That's what I remembered.
Wow.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay.
I just have to tell
Bye, Michael.
Bye, Michael. Thank you.
Bye, Michael.
Gotta tell him.
Bye.
And Michael, congratulations on your movie. Amazon.
Oh, thank you. Finally,
Amazon,
it's made it.
What's it,
Yes.
Michael? I'm sorry, before you leave again, it's on Amazon and it's called Cowboy Junkie. Am I making that up?
Cowboy Drifter.
Cowboy Drifter. Okay,
All right.
amazing. Make
Yep.
sure you all rent that and
Congratulations.
support Michael. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, take care. Great seeing everyone.
You too, Michael.
Good night.
Go ahead, Amy.
Bye.
So if Craig is still here, he could tell the story better, but I believe that is the day that we had fake rocks in the ocean and they weren't really made to float. And so set dressers were out there holding them down and they were floating away. And so as this emotional scene was happening, you can kind of see that the rocks are also kind of listing back and forth.
Wow.
So typical of some of the stuff we had to do. So I had to throw that in because it was pretty.
No, that's amazing. What anybody, Rick, what about you? Do you have any other stories from set? We were talking the other day.
Good Lord. There's so many stories on the set, but I think probably the things that I remember most about working on the sets is the actors just having fun together. Jason is a very quick-witted guy, and I'm kind of known for my puns. So sometimes Jason would hear me and he'd get started and the whole thing was held up because we were throwing jokes back and forth at each other. And people tolerated it up to a certain point, and then it was like, Rick, go outside and clean the truck. So that was where I ended up.
I just remember when we were shooting on the yacht, I think it was Noah's boat, that everybody kept going down the stairs and whacking their heads on one of those beams across there.
How long were you there, Diana? Were you there towards?
I kind of left season 7, and then I would come back and do double ups, and then I finished. I came back for the end of season 10, the after Christmas.
Oh.
I started the show after Christmas and I ended the show after Christmas,
That's amazing. I'm sorry, were you done with that story, or were there?
It was funny because I remember the actor. I don't know if his name was Noah or his character's name.
Oh, his name is Vincent Young.
Yeah, Vincent.
Yeah.
I remember Vincent. Yeah, like, how am I supposed to remember my lines when everybody keeps hitting their heads?
Is that the episode that it rained for 3 days in Marina Del Rey?
Probably.
I
think it was when we built the boat on set. I think it was on the set boat. I don't think it was the real boat on the outside.
That was when we blew up the car. That was that's when it was pouring rain.
Yeah, I sat on the top of that boat for 2 nights in the rain, watching one light that was lighting the deck of the boat. Man, I hated that episode.
That was Rick, we had so little production, real production on 90210 that to blow up a fucking car.
I know, that was cool.
Was really and Whitmore was coming in to do the direction after it. And I've told this story before, and I've told it to him, and he laughed about it when we were together last time I saw Luke, which was in 2013 when he came over. We had some people come over for the anniversary of the 20-year anniversary of the class of 93. That he reads that script, the one where he played his inner child, and he says to the director, he says, how come the kid gets all the good lines? We had to explain to him, no, you're doing both parts. Right. Okay. And you would think, oh gosh, how could he do that? I'll tell you the other one. He never wrote it down in a note, but Aaron Spelling said, how, had the same note for me, but then realized and crossed it out. Oh, wait, they did make the distinction that he was playing both parts.
Right. Bethany, you directed one of the most shocking moments in 90210 with Josh Richland getting in that accident where when the characters killed off the show. It's totally shocking. I remember as a kid watching that episode, and we've talked about that a little bit with you here before. What was that like to shoot that? I'm asking you again.
I'm afraid I don't have any big stories about that, but I would like, if it's okay with you, to follow up on what Rick was saying about
sure.
Jason. Because even in the first season, he was so smart and he was so talented. And I remember, first of all, I asked him how old he was, and he would never tell me how old he was because he was older than he was supposed to be as a high schooler. And saying that I told him probably on the second episode that I did that he should be a director because he thought like a director and he was so smart. And of course, he became one and a very successful one.
In season 1, by the way, in season 1 was when he did it. And it was for all the reasons that you've all pointed out, that he just had so much smarts and so much, and then too, of course, what you need to be a star, ambition. He really wanted to direct. I was like, yeah, he can, and we'll, and I thought it would be easier to say yes to than to say no, you can't, and keep it out there and have any dissonance, because you know he was a big reason why our show worked. He was so friendly and so open, and that the family thing comes from two things. That the openness of Luke and Jay had a lot to do with it, I think. But also the isolation of being in that warehouse. There was nothing else around to go. If we were on a studio, you would have all, it would have been the thing that you all would have been segmented. It was what you would, someone was talking, when Matthew Lawrence was talking about, I loved hanging with you, and Amy, you were talking about being with the actors in the Cougars. But I had much more limited experience with production than all of you. No question about it, because my career truncated and back to writing again, and just wasn't in that same, kind of sphere. But whenever I did have shows, I would notice that the art department would eat together, and the post-production would eat together, and the actors would eat together. The mingling was what was unique to our show, because I think it is more segmented in the other ones. It had a variation of birds of a feather kind of thing.
Diana Valentine, do you have significant moments or memories that stand out to you, stories that you've never forgotten, whether they're silly or fun, or maybe even a moment of an episode that was like, wow?
Not story-wise, but I remember an episode. I think it was Ian's character was playing chicken with somebody, and we were doing it out on the cul-de-sac where the stages were.
Right in front.
Yeah, and I remember they had cameras mounted on the sides of the cars so that they could get the reaction, and the cars missed, but the camera didn't. And I remember the camera flying off in the air. It was night, thank God, and hitting the ground, and the mag opening up, and the film, and they hadn't reloaded the magazine before we did the script, before we did the stunt. So it was all the day stuff was in there. And I remember there was this dead silence out there, and then the loader ran over, threw his jacket over the film, picked it up, and ran it into the dark room. And luckily, because it was night, didn't lose too much of the footage. But I just remember all those people out there watching him. You could have heard a pin drop out there when that happened.
Oh, wow.
My God.
Yeah.
Wow. That's...
Chuck, did you get a call about something like that, Chuck?
That one I didn't hear about. That one would have.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was Jim Nygren.
Jack Bender.
The show
ran into the dark room.
Did the show shoot in 16 or 30? What was
35.
it? 35. Wow.
35, yeah.
Rick, you said who was it that did that?
It was Jim
doing
Nygren.
35 by season 3. We did 16 for 1 and 2.
Oh, did you really?
We were 16. Are you sure
later.
we moved
I
up
just
to
wonder
35?
yours was 16
I thought
and-
we were 16.
Maybe we were.
Because it was
I don't know,
transferred
but it was,
quickly.
yeah, it was Jim Nygren. He was the loader at that point. Yeah.
A lot of the stuff, because you'd save money on it. Same thing with Bethany, you did Northern Exposure, right?
I did not.
Oh, well, they missed out. But it was, they used 16 too.
Well, once you went to video editing, it didn't seem to matter as much.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, we were the cheapest possible. Saving money every which way.
Diane, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Bethany.
I just want to, because it's such a sweet memory for me, I wanted to say one thing about Luke that I haven't memory of.
Yes.
The very first episode I did, we were shooting in the, it was then called the Bellage Hotel. And it was a scene where Jason and his girlfriend from Minnesota were meeting, and he wanted Luke's character to meet. So we were kind of waiting on him. And it turns out that he had been to the hospital that morning to get a spinal tap because everybody thought he had meningitis. But he made sure that he came to set, and he laid on a little 2-seater chair. So his legs were hanging off the end, is my point. And I leaned over the back of it and said, "Are you sure that you're okay? Are you sure that you can do this?" And my hands were on the back of the chair. So he picked up my hand and he rubbed it for a second. And he said, "You have a hand just like my mother." And I went, I'm gonna love this guy forever. I did, and he jumped up and did the scene perfectly, even though he'd had a horrible, horrible morning.
I have a couple of pictures here. I'm going to see if I can that you sent, Bethany, with some of your people. Here you have some of the girls. I guess that's at the Walsh house.
It is in the kitchen. That was a very late night.
There's
We
Jill.
were all a little goofy.
Yes, amazing. Diane Young, you had so many people come through your office. I mean, we did so many amazing episodes with you on this podcast where you went through everybody's casting. Thank you for tolerating us with all those questions. Are there significant ones that stand out to you when someone came in and read and you said, "Oh my God, this person is not only perfect for 90210, but just perfect, is going to have an incredible career"?
Probably. But my memory is pretty much shot from all the podcasts last year. No offense.
You haven't done much research since. Yes. Yeah.
No, not much research at all. I've been moving. No, the only one that really sticks out, and I told the story last year, was when I had first met Luke. And then when I first came to interview for 90210, and Chuck was describing the character of Dylan, and it went through my head. I thought, oh my God, I know who this person is. And Chuck looked at me and he said, you know someone for this. Who is it? And I wouldn't tell him. I said, yes, I do.
As if I would have known any actor's name, but he didn't know that.
And he had not done too much at that time. So I just, I held it close to my heart because I liked him so much in the interview when I met him when I was at Paramount working on a pilot. And
well, let me just say one real quick story to amplify on that. You know, Luke was about the 10th or 12th actor to come in to read for it because we needed to blanket, and you had all these actors. And until Luke came in, it was like, not only is this character not going to work, this series isn't going to work. Oh my God, is this a mess? What am I doing here? Nobody's going to be it. And then Luke reads the part and he's perfect. And you know, I didn't, you didn't have to pick me up off the floor. We had somebody to cast, thankfully. Sorry, Larry, I've been ahead of you there, but.
Jill?
I actually have a really sweet Jason story, and it shows about their age and everything. He had been going out with the actress Christina Leese during when we were filming. And after they broke up, one day we were standing outside talking, and he told me he was really concerned now about dating because he didn't know if people wanted to go out with Jason Priestley, the actor, or Brandon Walsh, the character, or who. And he just felt for the first time like the popularity was now a burden, not necessarily, I mean, and not in a big way, but
no, I understand.
He was, you know, he is a deep person and a nice man. And he was just at that time, a really young man and really confused. I'm glad he did find a great woman and has a happy marriage and wonderful kids. But
Yeah.
at the time, he was very concerned about how he would be perceived and how he would date.
Amy, did you raise your hand before and I missed that? No, you're muted.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wanted to, that was a while back, but I was just going to say how, with a series that went on this long, I think that's the other reason we were all so close, because it was more like a full-time job. Now when I do a series, it's, 8 or 10 episodes, and then we're on to something else where everybody's all, thrown to the winds. But not only was this a series that came back every year, but we worked together all year long. So there wasn't a lot of separation, and there wasn't a lot of new people that were brought into the mix of the crew or the cast, other than the temporary people, or day players, and even those were consistent. So I think it made for us all to being a much stronger unit as we moved forward. The other thing I was going to mention is going back to talking about wardrobe and things like that. I think that Tom and Jill together created a really iconic look.
Yeah.
That became what was expected in Hollywood households when you thought of the idea of success. I mean, the Walsh house with all that pine furniture and the solid colored drapes. You got to remember that we didn't have Restoration Hardware, Pottery Barn, Target, Wayfair, stuff like that back then. That was all Jill making those decisions to move forward, to create characters with the rules that she wanted in the design. And I personally believe that got copied, in a way that they never really got credit for.
Well, I was trying to say that a little bit earlier because the looks of the various sets on 90210, and it's a credit to everybody that worked in that department. I mean, I wanted to go and have a burger at the Peach Pit. I wanted to spend time in the Walsh house. It was that inviting. It's because of that work that you all did. Absolutely. Yeah.
Aaron, when we were talking to Aaron about redoing the Walsh house, because when the parents went to China, Jason really wanted to redo the house and make it more hip for the guys. And we went to speak to Aaron, and he said to Tom and I, just don't mess with my hair and my wardrobe. That was more important to him than anything.
No question. No question. Diane knows I never saw what they were wearing before, because all I put them in a blue jeans and a t-shirt. I don't want to spend any money on clothes. I'm saying this to Aaron Spelling, but so you put the money on the clothes, Aaron, and then he ended up.
Aaron, and do you know who Nolan Miller is?
Oh, of course.
Costume designer.
Sure.
Okay, Aaron and Nolan were roommates in college. So he naturally developed a love for costume.
Yeah. On the note about Aaron, we should definitely mention him. Diane Kennedy, you worked hand in hand with him, and Young as well, but I wanted to give each person that had an opportunity to work with him. What was he like to work with?
I'm sorry, who are we talking about?
I'm talking to Diane Kennedy right now, and then I will move around the.
What person?
I'm sorry, Aaron Spelling.
Oh, Aaron.
Yeah.
Well, he's so lovable. The thing about him is that he's such a solid, centered type of person, and very soft-spoken. But when he told you to do something, you knew you darn well better do it. He never made demands. He would always phrase it as a favor. So he was a very gentle person, but he was also very opinionated, and he knew what he wanted. Luckily, he was happy with what I was doing, so I rarely heard from him. We had a problem with the girls putting socks in their bras. When I first came on, he called me, he said, where is all this cleavage coming from? And I had to explain to him, what was going on. And so we had to solve that. But, he was a wonderful person. I loved working with him. I had worked with him on Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
I did all the special parties and things like that.
Yeah.
And I love Aaron Spelling. He's a wonderful man.
Drew, I know you have to leave. Do you have any memories of Aaron Spelling?
I used to, the only time I ever sort of ran into him was at rap parties, and people would say, "Did you talk to Mr. Spelling?" I think that was his foot I stepped on when I spilled my drink. But no, I do have to leave. But I wanted to say, this was awesome. I'm glad to see everybody, and hopefully it won't be another 33 years before we can do it again.
All right. I'm already planning it in my head, the sequel to this, so don't stress, Drew.
I too happen to be on the clock.
Yes. Okay. Well, this has been great. We don't need to go around the room.
We are, so
yeah, we can wrap here now, Chuck. This has been really.
I'd like to say one thing, please.
Yes.
Say anything you want.
We have to give kudos to Paul Wagner.
Yes. That's what I was going to say.
That man, it was the best producer on the planet. And he is the person that held it together day after day after day. He was a wonderful human being.
Yes.
Right, girls?
90210 was the second show that Paul and I did together. And the first one, he was his first time after doing the bicentennial minute.
Chuck,
oh my gosh, look who just dropping in.
Yeah, Chuck, hold on, don't go anywhere. Don't.
I was just about to raise my hand too.
don't anyone go anywhere. We have a special guest coming in to say hi to all of you.
Timing is everything.
It is, isn't it? Brian,
oh my God!
I got it's Brian Green.
look at this motley crew.
Right.
Holy cow! How is
name?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, Brian.
Oh, I
Hi,
miss this
Brian.
group. So
Randy was
amazing.
telling us about your podcast. It sounds really good, buddy.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely an adventure. It's called Oldish, which I feel oldish now at 50.
Yeah.
But it is we're just kind of, I'm doing it with Randy Spelling.
Yeah, Randy was just with us telling us all. It's amazing.
Earlier. Yeah.
He's been a life coach for 15 plus years in Portland. It's unbelievable, and he's amazing. He's so good at what he does. But we tackle different topics and subjects, and we make them sort of a weekly thing. We make a meal out of them. It's what we do.
Do you have memories of Bethany Rooney? Some of the people that are here, Brian?
Oh God, I have a million. I have a million memories. Are you kidding? It was 10 years of doing that. Honestly, I just have the memory of the fact that with everyone that no matter what it is we were going through and how big or small or crazy the ride felt, that everybody stayed really close as a unit. Like that never changed. I would get to set and it was the same people from start to finish. Nobody got bigger than that. Nobody got smaller than that. And that was the cast down. It really trickled through with everyone. Everyone that I had the opportunity to work with, or that I saw every day in the front office, or in wardrobe fittings, or in trailers, or playing backgammon, gambling in the back with Billy Greens. Like it was always the same experience with everyone, and it was just an absolute family to be there. I loved it. I've honestly never looked back at that experience with anything except just absolute fondness for it. I had such an amazing experience.
Can I say from my end, Brian, remembering season 1, you weren't 18 yet, and neither was Tori.
No, I was
and
17.
You had to do schooling
in
between us shooting.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's pretty crazy. You know, you're
I used to sneak out of the trailer and smoke cigarettes with Jason.
Ooh, bad boy.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So that
17.
first season, people were gambling with a minor when you were gambling with them out there.
Oh no, that was late. That was later on. I was like I was in my 20. I was in my like mid 20s at that point.
You and Eric Lopez had a memorable Toma Toto spinning thing with the dreidel one night, and you did a spin for like $1,500.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Wow.
Yes, the whole crew was standing around watching
Yes.
Eric Lopez and Brian Green doing this dreidel, and it's like, oh my God, they're rolling for $1,500. And
I love that we made such a meal out of that. I forget why we even had the dreidels there in the first place.
Well, it was a very special Hanukkah.
That was Hanukkah.
Is that what it was? It was one that you wrote, Chuck.
Karen, probably.
Right. On this episode of Beverly Hills 90210.
I heard you talking,
dreidel,
Brian, that you're, you know, it's shocking that everybody's talking about the 90s now. We were just talking about this earlier, and 90210 is one of these places that is the most iconic thing of the 90s.
That's crazy.
But all of these people, where I was saying earlier, had a huge impact in making the show iconic, you know, whether it was the sets or Diane with the wardrobe or the casting.
Absolutely everyone. Yeah. It was one of those moments where I think everybody, just the stars aligned, and everybody was sort of at the top of their game during that time period. And I think that's what created the lasting magic that 90210 created.
Totally. Diana Valentine, any memories of script supervising Brian? Was he always easy?
Brian was always easy. Brian was never a problem.
That's not true.
It is.
Don't pick me to be some just great guy.
Yeah.
That was a headache.
What? Brian never picked up furniture and threw it.
I didn't pick up furniture and throw it. Did I pick up people and throw them? No, I didn't pick up anyone. No.
Brian was always lovely. I always felt like Brian was always was caretaking Tori a little bit throughout everything. I remember when she first moved out into her own place, and I was standing next to the craft service table, and Tori was there and Brian was there, and Brian's looking at us like, Tori, did you not eat before you came? And she like confessed that she didn't know how to run the appliances in her house.
Yeah.
It's so adorable.
Yeah.
Diane Kennedy, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say about Brian being so easy to work with. Brian, do you remember the ugly shirt? Do you remember that story?
All of which one? I had a million ugly shirts.
When I went out and shopped for an ugly shirt, because you were so easy to work with, you would put anything on that I put in your room. So one day I went out and got the ugliest shirt I could
do. Oh my God, I do remember
that.
Yeah. It had become, honestly, at that point, when you put the ugly shirt in, it was a challenge, because we would also in the room, like, try and pick out like sheets of like ugly material and go, what can we make out of these? And we would make, remember when we had the Lifesaver material and we made pants? Remember that whole thing? Like we would try and find these ridiculous, like, swaths of material and make just the most hideous clothing. And yeah, I would wear it gleefully.
And did it on purpose.
I did do it on purpose. Yeah. Because it was fun. It was a challenge. It was like, how bad can we do this? And we'll see if people go out and manufacture or buy these things. And sure enough, I would see people out at clubs wearing these like ugly print shirts that we made from scratch. And it didn't matter.
The 90s are back. Everyone bring those prints back.
Oh, geez. Go to your local like Joann's or something like that and buy a couple yards of like the worst material you can find and make a shirt out of it. And David Silver would have worn it at some point.
And
Diane,
you put it on, don't you recall? To go to the set.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would, yeah. I mean, it took years of therapy after some of the things that you put me in. But I did.
Diane Young, what about you? Any memories of Brian? Did he come to you and say, "Hey, help cast my friend" every once in a while?
No, I don't think
that's actually not true. There were a couple times in episodes that we were doing where I had a friend or something. I remember my friend Kamal Holloway. You cast him in something in the what was that was the Squash It episode.
Squash It, I bet.
Yeah.
Your music.
Squash It.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. My buddy Kamal was in that, and Trey was in that. So there were a couple times.
Well, one of the first podcasts we did, Vicelis came on and did it. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
so
super
that
cool,
was
man.
a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
go ahead.
got a split, Pete. I'm sorry to say.
Oh,
now Craig
Chuck.
Pittman is back.
But I just got here.
Yeah,
I
Chuck.
know.
Well, we're going to continue the party without you, Chuck, if that's okay.
I think that's just fine. I love you all. Thank you so much for coming and helping
Bye,
us
Chuck.
celebrate our anniversary. It really, it was the best of times.
Thank you, Chuck.
Love you, brother.
Bye.
Diane Young, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Brian.
Oh, geez. This isn't going to end well.
Oh, it will. It will. No, I remember Brian because I had been casting for a few years before 90210, and I would have him in on those shows. And
Yeah. We had known each other for a while before the pilot.
Hey, look, it's Brian Green.
Came around.
yeah. And
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is so great. I'm so glad that this worked out time-wise, Pete. Thank you for
Of course,
inviting
man.
me.
I'm on.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Diane.
no. But he always came in. He always did a really good job. And when it came to 90210, I mean, he was just great and nice to me, which was really important to me, to Kelly. And that's very important. And I remember the guys would come into my office and want to see pictures of girls that were submitted, actresses. And so I would have stacks of them around, and it was Luke was in there first, and then Ian came in, and then Brian came by, and it's like my back door was open, and he saw them going through all these pictures. So he came in as well and was looking at pictures, and I'm not going to say what they could have been for, but they were going through pictures. So do you know this person? Well, what's she like? You know, that kind of thing. But it was just, to me, those were very sweet moments.
Do you
Early
recall
Tinder.
that, Brian, going through the pictures of
I
potential
played
actors?
I
There was
played
no
the-
Tinder.
Right. I have no idea. I was too busy reading the Bible on those days. No, I have no idea what anybody is talking about right now.
Craig Pittman, any memories of Brian? Do you remember Craig Pittman, Brian?
Yes.
You're muted,
there?
buddy. Yeah, he's here. He's just muted. Yeah, there you go.
geez.
Nice to see
There
you.
he is. Oh my God. So good to see you.
Gosh. I'd have to dredge one up. That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, right? Yeah,
And
my
we-
brain is like buffering, trying to think of.
I mean, I know I have like souvenirs and memorabilia around my house, but I've moved a couple times since then, and my brain has moved many times since then. So,
Jill Henkel, how about you? Any memories being with Brian and hanging out with Brian?
Hi, Brian. I don't have any specific. I just remember that he was always nice. And the first season, he was with this guy who ends up committing suicide, who we always refer to as Dead Scott.
Scott
Scott.
Scanlon. He went through a few.
Yeah.
He went through a
Poor
few
Scott.
different names.
But this piece behind me, I'm trying to get it, this space thing.
Yeah.
That was in the first apartment that he had by himself, that David had by himself.
You're kidding.
No. And I've had this thing up ever since.
God.
Someone wanted to say hi. Your dad is here, Brian. If you look down below, Matthew Lawrence.
What?
Yes.
Where's there he
What?
is.
Matthew needs
What?
more light.
Where's your camera? What do you?
Well, hold on. Wait a minute.
Oh, there he
Turn the
is.
light on.
Lighting
There we
light
go.
on.
Hold on. Hello.
This is the
hello.
Matthew I remember. See,
Hello.
can't turn lights on. How are you, brother?
Okay, here I got a beef with you. Okay,
Oh, jeez. Oh,
so
boy.
I have to hear that you have a podcast with Randy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm your father. Could you call me? Could you call me and say, Dad, we have a podcast? Something.
What's crazy is this isn't our first fight. We've done this dance before. Matthew is quite often upset with me, but I think that's a normal father-son relationship.
I told them before, I've loved you since Circus of the Stars.
Yeah. So Matthew and we've known each other for so long. At the point when he was cast on 90210, we had already known each other really well for what, 7-8 years?
Probably. I think you, what were you, 13 on Circus? I think
something like
something
that. I was still doing Knots Landing at that point. That's why I ended up doing it. And right. I was literally just billed as Brian Green at that point.
Yeah.
There wasn't even the Austin in that name.
Anyway, it's so great to see you.
Oh, I love you.
Brian, I want to ask you about Matthew, because as a super fan of 90210, I'm always that first. There's really beautiful chemistry and work between the two of you, whether it's him, coming at you about how David is being in a situation. There's a lot of really powerful stuff with David's depression through the years and some of his manic behaviors. And there really is a beautiful chemistry between the two actors. What is it about Matthew and his performance that got some of that out of you?
Oh boy.
I honestly believe that Matthew and I have just always been honest with each other from day one when we met of who we were. And you can't help but connect with people when you approach it that way, when you feel completely safe with someone because you feel like they are feeling completely safe with you. We listened to each other when we were in scenes. We were truly connected, and it felt like a father-son relationship. Honestly, from day one of working together, we just never really had false moments in things, because we didn't have that in life. So how do you? We would say lines where it was like, oh, that's not something I would say to him, but we had been working forever. So when we were working on the show, we never had a sense of ego in what it was we were doing. It was like, oh, this is, these scenes are written and this is the way it goes. And we understood the dynamic between the characters, and we appreciated it. And it was fun because so much of it was outside of the dynamic that we had naturally just in being characters. But we have loved each other from day one. So,
this is unbelievable. I mean, to hear you talk like that, but this does go back to Circus, because it wasn't easy. You were a young guy on a TV show, and I can't remember. I know your mom was there every day.
She was, because she had to be, because I was so young.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I remember how much I loved her, and just hanging out with you. I mean, we were going through some pretty rough physical stuff, training for that. Yeah. And we had a blast. And from the minute I saw Brian, as I was talking about in the makeup trailer, the first day I went there, the funny thing is people, and I get asked this all the time, when you have a big body of work, this is not a humble brag, but when I have done a lot of work, and people ask me about the show, I always say this, and sometimes I think they get it wrong. It's maybe the least creative thing that I ever did in my acting, because I loved Brian so much, that I felt like he was my son. Even though we were on a set, I always felt like Brian was my son. And so I would show up and I would say these great lines that I was given. And it was, the whole thing from start to end was, even the last episode, I believe you got married in the last episode.
Yes.
I mean, I'm very old and I remember some stuff, but even sitting watching that, and how ridiculous is it? We're on a set. There's lights, there's cameras, all kind. There were times watching that my heart burst, because it was like watching my son get married. And I didn't have any children back then when that was going on. I do now, but that's what I would have felt.
You have like 20 now, right? You really kicked it up a notch at the point when the show was done.
Well, you know, it was LA in the 90s.
Right, totally. Yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah.
But that's actually how I felt. And it's just amazing.
Same.
Amazing.
Bethany, I know you have to leave, but before you leave, in directing them, I'm sure you've directed scenes of Matthew and Brian together. What was it about their work together that you loved so much, and even specifically Brian?
Honestly, I don't think if you guys tell me, I don't think I had any silver father-son scenes in the episode.
I don't think you did either, Bethany.
No.
And I wish
I don't know how you didn't, because how many did you end up directing, Bethany? How many episodes would you say?
I think 14.
I
mean, the important.
It seems like a lot more.
Well, I mean, you couldn't get rid of me. I think it's probably that has to do because I was there at the beginning, you know, and up to the season opener of season 7. So I was there, you know, in a very formative time.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry to say I can't contribute anything about Matthew and Brian's relationship. But I do want to say thank you, Pete, for bringing us all together. This has been lovely. And I wish we could all be together in person, because
it's amazing.
Because it would be just one big gigantic hug.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you.
We have a lot of hotels here on Hawaii.
Larry, you've got your hand raised. Bye,
I was going to say,
bye, Bethany. Thank you.
Bye, Bethany. You know, I got to write a lot of the David Silver and his father scenes.
Yes.
And
my name was Mel.
I know you, Mel. Dr. Silver,
right.
The dentist.
He misspelled your name even way back then. So
I know.
Did I? But you know, the great thing for us was we knew who these characters were, so we could really push the limit on it. And you know, and for us, again, we're manufacturing, because I was there for 4 seasons. We did 128 hours, and I should say the scripts were never late. So we are very proud of that. That was very proud. But we knew we could always count on pages with father and son, because there was so much reality to them. There's so much relatability to them, and you know, we could just keep twisting the relationship, because you had, you know, the married Carrie Teller's mother, then we had his grandfather, you get the T-Bird. I mean, we had so many places we could really stoke up their relationship. And then you had the you know David Silver's mother and her mental thing which goes on. You know, we really could get so much good drama out of that, you know, in a father-son way, that it was just easy for us, because we knew exactly what it was going to be like.
My favorite episode was the one with David and I when we went to Portland to end his mom. But I have to go.
Carol Lagerfeld. Yeah,
she was
mother. Yeah, she was great. We put her on the streets of Portland. It was just a killer episode. And it led to some other ones too. We had, you know, we were able to take David on the brink of suicide, I think in season 6 or something, or maybe 7.
Well, this is I know you got to go, Matthew, but I'm going to wrap up this whole experience. Anyways, I just wanted to say, Brian, I was watching an episode of 90210 the other night, and you were just such an incredibly gifted actor. And there's such an authenticity in everything that you do.
Thank you.
On screen, but even as a person. And thank you for coming on here and spending some time. I'm going to let you have the last statement here. Working with the crew on 90210, what was that like for you over the 10 years of being on that show?
It wasn't, to me, there was no differentiating between certain departments. Everyone, it was a family. We all worked together for a long time. We all shared a lot of experiences, good ones, bad ones. We were all there for each other. And that's honestly one of those once in a lifetime experiences that that I'll never forget. I mean, it absolutely shaped me in just being a human being and being kind and generous. And I learned so much about life being there. And I learned it from everyone that was around me. Not just the cast. It was absolutely every single person that was there. They were all vital to what it was we did. And that was a show that took a lot of people in a lot of positions to make happen, especially when we were doing double ups and things like that. It was hard. It was a lot of work. And that show only happened because everybody was in giving it 110% from day one. And thanks to every single person that was a part of the show, we ended up with 10 seasons of a show, which doesn't happen very often, and especially doesn't happen at 35 episodes a season or whatever it was that we did at our max.
And 33 years later, man, we're still all talking about this show. You're meeting fans and they're telling you things about how it impacted their lives. Is it crazy to you? Did you think that
crazy? We just did as a cast, we just did 90s Con in Florida. And God, the people that were there, the people that were there with the t-shirts and all and the stuff. And I see constantly this guy Darren Martin out of Canada, he's literally got every piece of prop memorabilia that there is. And then anything that ever sold anywhere. So he's got Matchbox sets of the cars that we drove, and he's got sticks of bubble gum that we bought in this scene. Like he remembers way more of this show than I do. But it's unbelievable the level of nostalgia that it carries for so many people. And I've really gotten to a point now where I understand that. I understand the importance of this show for people, because other people and other things in my life carried the same amount of importance in different ways. Obviously, different shows, different sports figures, different things that way, singers. But God, what an amazing experience. What an amazing group of people. And I love the fact that I have gotten to see just a handful of you here. And I think it'd be so great to at some point get everyone together in a room.
Yes.
I know the cast that I just saw, everybody would love that. So we should try and make that happen. Pete, you can be there. You can't broadcast from there.
That's fine.
Yeah. But you can absolutely be there, and you have been a big part in this show continuing to be spoken about, and for us to continue to run across each other in this way.
Amen.
So thank you so much for that, Pete.
Of course, man.
I don't think people give you enough credit for what it is you've done with
Thank
this.
you, man. Much appreciated. This has been an amazing 33-year anniversary with the crew.
Wow.
Love you all, guys,
years.
so much. I said it before, you all impacted an entire generation, and it's coming back around. So celebrate it and live with that, because it's been an incredible journey to experience all of this and to get to know all of you. So thank you. Larry, any last thoughts? Do you have any final thoughts? You like to always end on you.
It was thrilling to see everyone. I mean, again, from my perspective, like Chuck's, we were told, we were raised in the business, writers don't go to the set. It's the director's meeting. If you go there, only bad things will happen. But when I go there, I would always see Diane, and I would see Drew, certainly, and I would see Jill, and I would be captivated by Diana Valentine out there holding the fort on our scripts. And I appreciated all the work that was going on and how hard we had to work. And I did want to remember, like Diane Kennedy said, Paul Wagner, who gave so much, and also Ken Stringer and Rick Gunther, who's no longer here either. They were some really important people in this production. Anyway, I love you all. We'll see you soon, I guess.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Matthew, for coming back in. Diane, Jill, everybody. It's so amazing seeing you. Diana Valentine, I'm going to hit you up for some more episodes. So. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.